Welcome to the Holy Maneuver podcast. I'm Marc.
And I'm Mike. We're two hardworking dads trying to immerse ourselves into Star Wars and fit it into our very busy lives.
This is your first time listening and or watching. In this sometimes short form Star Wars podcast, we'll share our thoughts on different topics from a galaxy far, far away.
Hey, how do you unlock doors on Kashyyyk?
Like this.
With a woo key.
Wah, wah.
All right, guys. So welcome to another episode of the Holy Maneuver podcast. This is episode 26. And joining us this week is Collins. How are you doing?
Hello, Collins. Thank you for coming.
Howdy, gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me on. This is awesome. I'm so excited. A little bit nervous too, but
it's all good. I appropriately enough met Collins for the first time in person at a Mandalorian trivia contest. So I figured
why not?
Yeah.
I unfortunately won a Cara Dune pop figure at that contest, but
oh, that's right. Yeah.
So
I remember.
It wasn't
the character Cara Dune is pretty cool. Unfortunately, the actress went the other way.
Yeah, but yeah. So this week we're going to be talking about the 6th episode of Andor, which is called The Eye. But before we get into our discussion about this week's episode, we'll first do our segment we kind of started recently called I'm Your Father, in which we kind of share, I guess, like whether we're dads to four-legged animals or to two-legged animals, whatever it may be.
It could be a four-legged animal that only has two legs. You never know.
Or it could be a three-legged animal. We don't know.
True.
Could be 5 legs, maybe 8 legs, maybe an octopus. Yeah.
No legs.
Maybe it's a snake. But anyways, Collins, did you have any stories of anything that you'd want to share from the past week?
Oh, sure. So actually, I love both cats and dogs, but I am a cat person, I guess mostly. And one of the things I have one cat right now, his name is Rollo. And I have a weird pattern with cats in that they love to play, but they don't like to actually hunt. And the thing is, I don't know what my luck is, but no matter how much I spray, I get some type of pest or vermin often in my house. So there have been times for example, with my previous cat, when there'd be a scorpion in the house and I would sick my Sadie on the scorpion and she would just be like, yeah, I don't have to do anything. So, but of course she'll hunt like actual toys and stuff. So, but I was proud of my Rolo this week because there was a cricket that came inside, and crickets are so annoying because they make this noise. You don't know where they are, right?
You hear them though.
You hear them, yeah. But and at first my Rolo seemed very indifferent because he has a very temperamental nature. I think a lot of cats do this, right? Where they're just relaxing and laying in the sun one moment, and then they're zooming all around the house the next moment. And I'm like, with the cricket's like, are you going to do anything? And he's just like laying on the couch looking at me. And then 2 seconds later, I just hear him zoom somewhere, and then he starts batting. I see him batting something. I'm like, what do you have there? And it's a cricket. He had killed the cricket, was just like kind of batting it around. It's a small thing, but I was really proud of him.
Always good.
Yeah.
I grew up with cats. It's always funny because the cats we had, one would catch mice all the time. The other one couldn't catch a cold. I was like, what is the difference here? Like, you're the same species. Like, why can't you do anything that this one can do?
Exactly.
Never got that.
Yeah.
How about you, Mike? What happened this week for you?
Didn't happen. I didn't have much new this week, but I was just reminded when I was doing bedtime because my daughter has a Grogu blanket. And I've never let her. She hasn't watched Star Wars. She knows nothing about Star Wars. I'm not going to force it upon her. I want her to discover Star Wars naturally. I feel that make her a better fan than if I'm like, you're gonna watch this because it's great. But we went to Target and we're just walking around, and she runs up, grabs the Yoda blanket, Grogu blanket, throws it in the cart, grabs a shirt, throws it in the cart. I'm like, this is a great moment. No, don't know anything about him, but just drawn to that.
That is great.
Still laugh about that.
Well, I guess that shows how well the marketing works of
Grogu.
Yeah.
Even though the show is called The Mandalorian. But I also have a theory with that too, is that with like how the stories progress so far on that show, is that eventually Grogu is going to be like a Mandalorian as well.
Yep.
And have like his own armor and whatnot. Which there's already been tons of fan art. If you like Google Grogu Mandalorian armor, you can find like different ideas of what people have thought. It's basically what Din Djarin's wearing, but with the pointy ears sticking out of the side of the helmet. And the story that you told Collins about your cat reminded me of kind of we were all talking about it before we started recording, was my puppy Sylvie, just getting into all kinds of junk, but she's like a little sociopath with grasshoppers. She'll pick them up and like, yeah, I don't know if you just heard her snort, but she'll like pick them up and like toss them in the air and then like watch them and then grab them by their legs and then throw them up again and then bat at them, like they'd be like, come on, come at me. But like, it's like, if you were a human, you'd probably be committed for like being that kind of like a sociopath, like just torturing the cricket. You're not like even eating it, you're just kind of like sort of chomping on it, and then you're like, all right. Like, I don't know. So half the time, like when she's watching rabbits out the window, I'm like, you're cute watching them right now. Right. But part of me just wonders like how much of your innocence would be broken in my head if you actually got outside and got one of those rabbits.
Exactly.
But yeah, she's funny when she's not trying to eat, tissues and lick the shower drain. So but segueing from those stories into rumors that have been kind of floating around for Star Wars news this week. This one kind of is a little bit connected to like our whole Andor Rogue One theming, in that Lars Mikkelsen has been rumored to be playing Thrawn in live action in the Ahsoka series, which now if anybody watched Rebels, he also was the voice of Grand Admiral Thrawn in the show too. So that's like, this would be like another case kind of like with gosh, her name is completely escaping me. What the heck's her name?
Talking about Ahsoka?
No, not Ahsoka.
Oh.
Sabine?
No, not Sabine. My gosh. Oh, Katie Sackhoff.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah. Where played the voice of the character, now playing the live action version of it. So, and then this connection here is that Mads Mikkelsen his brother played Galen Erso, Jyn Erso's dad, in Rogue One. So it'd be interesting to get another Mikkelsen in live action in the Star Wars universe. So this would be interesting if this rumor ends up being true, and he does show up in the Ahsoka series. Because we've kind of talked about this before, but this would basically mean essentially every kind of major character, more or less, from Star Wars Rebels will be showing up in live action in Ahsoka. So the only one we haven't heard about yet would be Zeb, and I'd still be super curious to see how they would do Zeb in live action for that show. That would be pretty interesting to see how they would do that. Like, I'd wonder if it'd be like a practical like alien effect, or if they try to do it CG. But I'd be very curious to see if Zeb shows up in that show too, be pretty interesting.
Yes, it would be interesting, and I would like to see him done practically. I mean, I'd be, I guess, fine either way, but I mean, a practical Zeb, I think, would be really cool, actually.
Yeah, but hopefully the rumor's true. I like this casting just because I mean that way. Sometimes I guess like the voice actor to live action actor fits better, I guess, than in other cases.
Mm-hmm.
But that is kind of interesting how they will cast or choose that depending on the character and whatnot. Like, you know, like Rosario Dawson's playing Ahsoka, but it's not like Ashley Eckstein who did
Mm-hmm.
the voice in the series. So I know like you haven't seen Rebels, Mike. Do you have any thoughts on that though at all?
I mean, I always like when the actors and the voice actors are the same person. So that's always a plus in my book. Gives a
Yeah.
continuity to it. Uh,
Yeah, I agree.
I didn't realize that he was Mad's brother.
Oh yeah.
Never put two and two together until just now. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm all
he was
for it.
pretty good as Thrawn too. So
Rebels is on my list to watch. So
yeah. We
gotta
might have
get
to
there.
we might have to do some like retro viewing of it for some episodes
Mm-hmm.
of Holdo just before Ahsoka comes out. So but definitely looking forward to that series when it comes out sometime next year. But before we get into our main review this week, our buddy Vactor has sent in a video recording of his review for it. So with that, we will segue to him.
Ooh, this is the second of the 2 story arcs that we've gotten so far, and I gotta say, the third episodes, the ending of these arcs has been fantastic both times. Episode 3 and now episode 6. I'm on board. This is one of my favorite Star Wars shows of all time, and I'm very much liking what they're doing. I think watching him in chunks of 3 is probably the best way to do it, but this finale of this arc had everything that I was hoping for, all of the action, the tense drama, like I was holding on to the edges of my seat and being like, oh man, what's going to happen next? And then the way that it sets up the rebellion and everything that's happening, very much chef's kiss. I got to say, I loved this episode of Andor. All right, let's get back to the hold on maneuver.
All right, and with that Star Wipe and Wayne's World Wipe.
Before we keep going, though, I need to give a shout out to Kevin Ham
Oh yes,
over at Wheeling Prodigy Productions. Left us a highly positive review. He's not even a Star Wars guy, and he watches our show, so there's no excuse not to like our show.
yeah, and it's pretty long, so we won't read it on the show. But thank you, Kevin, for taking the time to leave the 5-star review. We really appreciate it. And with that, now let's get into our 5-star review to not bury the lead of episode 6 of I was going to call it the Holo Maneuver of Andor. Now, before we kind of like get into like the bits by bits of this, we can do like a round robin of, I guess, what were the highlights of the episode for you? What did you like the most? And what do you think is going to come next on the show? So we'll start with you, Collins, and then go to Mike, and I'll wrap it up from there.
Well, I don't know where to begin because I absolutely adored this episode. But I gotta say, for me, I think the most striking thing was the just the visual impact of them doing the heist in the middle of this eye and in the middle of this religious ceremony. I thought the imagery was just so striking, and also thematically, it was very just on point. So I mean, but there's a lot I could say about this. I am crestfallen that Nimic died. I was rooting for him so much. He's one of my favorite characters to come to Star Wars for a long time.
Posthumously, spoiler alert for all those.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry.
Anyone watching this has seen the episode.
Okay. Cool. but yeah, that's for me. I was the first time I watched this, I was just struck by how beautiful it was, and I think Andor in general is just a great looking show.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree that cinematography on the show is like is fantastic. I don't recall who the cinematographer is for the series so far, but it's been shot really beautifully. It matches that same kind of um, like the way that they shot Rogue One as well too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of got that similarity to it, which I like as well. But yeah, like you were saying, the that whole visual of the eye with like the what essentially looks like fireworks
Mm-hmm.
mixed with like comets shooting overall at the same time uh, looked fantastic. And I found a like a 4K screen grab of it that I was thinking of like making some kind of like cover photo for the podcast with, but it just looks awesome, and
Yeah.
I would
Almost did
definitely
that
agree
for
with
my
it.
background, but I didn't
Oh
change it.
yeah, oh yeah. I don't know. It's got kind of it's like a lot of the times you like want to be in the action of stuff that you see within Star Wars, but like within this, you'd almost want to be in the ground, like watching that visual. So I thought that was pretty great. How about you, Mike?
I visually was amazed. I'm disheartened it wasn't on the big screen. IMAX would have probably been quite more making it more impressive.
I think.
I wasn't shocked at all the death for the
Mm,
characters that we've met so far. I kind of predicted the double cross that happened, which ruined it a little for me because I hate when you're able to predict what's going to happen. A little disheartening if it's that predictable. Um, I was just like the parallel between just like our history in this country versus what's going on in Andor
Mm-hmm.
is just like kind of I don't know with the word. It's just like this parallel that I keep seeing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's interesting that it lines up that well. Um, yeah, I'm just where I think it's gonna go. I don't really know now because this was like the conclusion of the arc of the 3 episodes.
Right.
right,
Obviously, they got to get off that planet. Cassian does, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes down.
right.
I don't think Vel knows how to fly. So how's she gonna get off that planet?
Mm-hmm.
Can't imagine they'll
Oh
be
yeah,
too keen on broadcasting out a distress signal to Luthen. So
yeah. It should be interesting. Yeah, like where this so like where like this episode picks up to like it like pretty much starts like where we ended in the last episode. I mean, more or less stay with this crew like the entire episode because we don't see like Mon Mothma or like Luthen until like pretty much to the very end of the episode, and we're kind of seeing the after effects of what this heist did with those two and how they're affected by it. Like we see like a basically what looks like all all things must go like going out of business like Senate basically. There's like it seems like 5 people in there with Mon Mothma. People just like walking out like her speech about the Gamorreans, um, which we know eventually like where that goes with her on Rebels as well too. So and then we haven't seen Saw yet, so I'm wondering if like maybe like this next uh 3 batches of episodes,
Mm-hmm.
um, maybe that'll be kind of like a story with him and like where that goes there too. We also know that uh, Cassian was looking for his sister at one point, still earlier
Oh,
in the
that's
season
right.
too.
Yeah.
that's how it started. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, and now we're
and it
like
went into a heist
halfway
movie.
through the season too. Yeah, and then now that we have like the Empire occupied um, planet that he left as well too, so maybe he'll go back there to try to help out his adopted mother. Uh, and then we didn't even see Cyril at all in this episode too, so we still have like
Didn't
all
need
these
to.
like little.
Mm-hmm.
Cyril was eating cereal.
Yeah. Yep, that's
Yeah.
what he
So
was doing.
But yeah, we still have a bunch of these like hanging threads. It'll be interesting to see like what the ISB does in like maybe in retaliation of this. But I liked like the tension that we got like this whole episode
Oh yes.
from basically the very beginning up
Mhm.
through all the way through the heist. Uh, and I liked that it didn't do what like a lot of heist like episodes of TV shows or like heist films will do, where like it's good if it's like done in the right way, but I also like when they don't show you like the plan as they're speaking of the plan,
Oh
and then
yeah,
like, oh,
Oh yeah.
that's
Ocean's
actually
11 style.
Mhm.
You
yeah,
go in
like
through the exit here.
Right.
yeah, and then you find out like, oh, they were doing it as they were explaining it on
Yeah.
screen. Um, so I like that we got like generalities of what they
Mm.
were doing with this heist, but we didn't know like like the key matches to it. So like when something was going wrong, we didn't actually know that right away.
Right.
Uh, and then what's the character's name? Like the one that Luthen was talking to when he dropped off Cassian on the planet.
Vel,
Bell. Okay.
the blonde haired
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. There's so many new characters on this. It's hard to
Yeah,
keep
there's a
like
lot of
track of.
characters.
Especially when they're not like they're like Star Wars names. And they're
Mhm.
not like like Bob or whatever.
Right.
We got Clem.
But yeah,
There's a Clem.
There's a Clem, yeah.
but yeah, like when she kind of started like tensing up in a little bit, and you thought maybe like she was going to be too nervous to go through with the rest of the heist, and then Cinta basically was like, "No, let's do this," and just like, and then
Mhm.
went away. So like some of the things like we have here in our like that we wanted to highlight. I remember I saw like this news story after I read or after I watched the episode yesterday too, is that uh, along with uh, the some swearing, like actual Earth swearing being in a
Mhm.
galaxy far, far away, now we had someone taking a pee for the first time
Right.
in Star Wars. And I thought it was funny that a website even like wrote an article about that, which is I think is kind of funny. So I guess maybe they needed to hit like a certain metric of whatever
Well, yeah,
articles for that.
it'll definitely increase your clicks the way
Yeah,
if it's phrased the way it's in the notes here. But
yeah,
that plus the swearing is just the added realism
Yeah.
that add like to make it more tangible to you, the viewer, or us, the viewer. It just
yeah,
makes it that much better.
yeah. I'd agree with that. It definitely, and then just like with the way like we've already been saying with like the way like it's been shot and stuff like
Mm.
that,
Mhm.
just makes it feel a little bit more gritty and real in a way. Uh, what I thought was also interesting in this too was like you can just similar to like how Cassian had said, like I think in the premiere was like, or I think it may have been the third episode. That was first three episodes kind of like blended together since we got them all at the same time. Was the Empire just like they're so lazy and fat,
Mhm.
and then like the straight up like visually show,
A lazy fat
um,
guy.
yeah, like the Behaz, I think was his name. Like
I
and
didn't
like
catch his name.
he didn't even realize he had gained
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
so much weight. Like he was
maybe
like
you've
putting out.
expanded. That was a good line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's one way to put it, I guess. But like him and like the other Imperials that were based on that planet, and like he has his family there with him, but like they're like just how like they're essentially like talking down like about like essentially what would be considered, I guess, Aboriginals or
Yeah.
natives
Right.
to the planet of Aldani, uh, which I thought
Yeah,
was
like they were just
interesting.
like, we put yurts up, we have beer over here for them. They just get distracted so easily that they give up, and just like
Yeah,
the general, they're less than attitude that
I
and
these
hated
you
this
higher
character
ups
from the
have.
very beginning with that whole speech about the indigenous people of Aldani. I
Mm.
just had contempt for him almost right away.
yeah, and what was it? I'm trying to remember the character's name again because there's the uh like the one that was with the Imperials.
The one who's
That
like in
was
the Inside Man.
yeah,
I don't
Isn't
remember
that
his name.
Gorin?
Gorin. Okay, yeah. Yeah, because he had
Lieutenant Warren, yeah, I
yeah,
believe
because
so.
we had known that he had it seemed like a past relationship with
They said his
uh,
wife or girlfriend was Eldani or something like that.
yeah. So
Oh,
like
okay, yeah.
we could tell like how much that was kind of like off-putting to him, like with
Hmm.
all of that as well too. So I thought that was kind of interesting how that was going with the whole stuff, and I liked the kind of uh, interaction they had later on, where he's like you'll hang for this, and he's
I've
like
done
working. Yeah, like
working for
yeah, I've
you.
done worse for you working for you for the past
Great
7 years.
line. Such a great
So,
line.
and then what sucks is uh, like he gets killed, like
Yeah.
by
Gorn
like a
got
random.
killed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he got
I missed
shot.
that. I didn't see that.
Yeah, and then Tarum, who was also a former stormtrooper,
Again, another former stormtrooper.
Hmm.
yeah,
There's
uh, he
stories to be had there.
he also gets shot too. So I was like,
Yeah.
man, and like what's kind of interesting when they do this in shows too is like when they do it very unceremoniously, where
Hmm.
it's just like that person, like almost like in real life, where it's like, oh, that person shot, and like they're just not. There's no like lingering like camera angle on them,
Hmm.
Hmm.
like no music
Unlike that,
swap or
no,
anything.
that
It's
Tim
like the
guy
action keeps.
from the first up 3 episodes, he got like a lingering shot,
Oh yeah,
which was strange because he was like just like this Bizhan or whatever his name is.
oh
Like
yeah.
he was just a
I
character
almost
you're like a Bihaz. And he's like, you want them, just like just die already. Just get away
Exactly.
from me.
I almost think that whole shot and how that was done was more for Bix. Uh,
I think there's more to it with the Vic side of it. You're right.
yeah, because I think we're gonna go back to that planet. I feel like, and we'll probably see more with them. But
I feel like Bix is going to blame Cassian. That's my stance. And there's going to be
uh, well, speaking of the Beehives dude too, I thought it was. I mean, it's not funny. It's like darkly funny that again because he had gotten so big from being there and getting so kind of lazy is that
Hmm.
he dies of like essentially it seemed like a heart attack.
yeah. He was
Yeah.
Like
gripping his arm and
Yep.
yeah, like and I feel like that's the first time I mean, we've kind of said some of this stuff, but it's like that's the first time we've seen like a heart attack in Star Wars.
Yeah.
So that, like that's the first time we've seen someone kind of like die of, I guess, natural causes outside of like Yoda being old and like fading
Right.
into the force. But uh I thought that was
was
interesting just
Leia
because like
shot
uh
or did you...
or no, yeah, she was kind of natural. Well, I guess I should phrase it first like non-force user we've seen die on screen of a some other kind of scene that's not like a stormtrooper shot or whatever else.
Fair
or
But
enough.
being burned alive like Owen and Baru.
that too.
Fair
Uh
enough.
yeah, but yeah, like and the other thing like with that too is that you're like, oh crap, like with them having to move the credits,
Mm,
I think we thought like initially like they all those credits were going to be in that
loaded.
like transport, but that's why like they needed that whole crew down there was because
Mm.
they needed them to move all of that. They didn't even move all of it, and they still got like the 80 million credits or whatever it
The thing I
was.
didn't like about that scene was like people just like grabbing the things and throwing them like they're pillows. Like these are supposed to be gold bars in these tubes,
Right.
and they're supposed to be so heavy that this guy has a heart attack while he's running around. But and they kill Mimic with them, but people can just grab them and just like throw them. I
Yeah,
don't know.
those are the super soldier storm
Like
imperials. They're just like
Right.
those are
yeah,
the ones that work out, the ones that run up and down the steps all day and don't sit around with their family eating a bunch of stuff, I guess. But yeah, I might put a note on here. Where it was like it was always good to see a generic TIE fighter pilot number two make appearance. And
they always have one extra TIE fighter pilot that just keeps showing.
Hmm.
You don't no
yeah,
name, no face, just generic TIE fighter pilot.
I liked that whole sequence though too. That was very cool. It's something that we don't see a lot, like with how it had them like running to the TIE fighters to
Mhm.
get into them, and like it was like this different way of loading into the TIE fighters too, because we've seen that a few different ways, but like this was the one where like they're hanging overhead and then like, they jump into it. So I thought that was done really well.
Yeah.
Totally enjoy watching the TIE fighters take off, and I don't know why. It's just the way they do it. Just how they're just like in the Death Star, they like or the other they slide down and then go. Guess they're
Mhm.
hanging above.
Right.
Just
Oh,
interesting.
and you had pointed out to me something that you had heard here. I didn't have time to watch it like
I
another
made a
time.
clip of it, but it wouldn't process in Premiere for me to play in this. At like the 37-minute mark, when the TIE fighters are going through the eye and they blow up, you can hear what I believe is the Han Solo like yeehaw from episode 4 as they're getting blown
Oh,
up.
really?
It's right around like 37 minutes. Like I wish the clip would work because I could play it and it'd go through fine, but it just Premiere keeps bombing out when I try to
But
process it.
it doesn't want anybody to know. It's
Yeah.
like, no, I got to
You think
keep
it would have
this
been pointed out
secret.
somewhere else other than me, so it's probably wrong, but
I
it's
don't know.
distinct yelling when the thing's blowing up.
I'll have to check out the Screen Crush and New Rockstars videos to see if
There
they
you go.
noticed it too. Because I feel like if they noticed it and you noticed it, then
Yeah.
it definitely was in there.
Yeah.
Because the first one blows up and then they're going, and then they show the other one getting pelted with the rocks and whatnot, and they cut to generic TIE fighter pilot number 2, and as it blows up, you hear "Yeah!" You hear it.
Interesting.
I'm not crazy. I am though, but
That'd be a cool audio Easter egg.
Yeah. I mean, like, because I feel like they've almost retired the Wilhelm scream. Because we haven't heard
it
that
could be
in a
that
while.
too. Yeah.
Maybe. But the other thing that I remember in this too is like when they hand over the pelt to the Aldani chief,
Mhm.
and there's the translation there, and Gorman translates, but he doesn't actually translate what the chief
Yeah.
said.
Right.
I forget what the chief said, but it was insulting.
And then the chief like looks at him. He's like, "Wait, what? No, I didn't say that. I didn't say something nice like that." Why?
Mhm. Like
So
he
I
knew.
thought, yeah, like I don't know if that was just like something for this episode or maybe something they'll come back to, but I thought that was kind of interesting to show that like they like the Empire takes it takes this like the natives so much for granted and
Mhm.
everything that they wouldn't even suspect that maybe that the natives there learned basic
Right.
so that they would
Communications.
so that they would also know what they were saying to them.
Right.
Was this
But
the first time they used subtitles in this series?
no, they used them in some of those first 3 episodes as well, I believe.
Because I know that with the children when they were talking, they didn't do
Oh,
it.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But I just don't remember any other times where subtitles would have came in.
Speaking of the children's stuff too, I think there's still going to be more flashbacks for that we haven't seen yet. Because I remember that there, I mean, unless it just got cut out, there's that shot in one of the trailers where like you can see the Star Destroyer overhead.
Mhm.
That's
And
right. Yeah.
we haven't seen that yet, so I'm not sure if that maybe it just did get cut out, or maybe we'll still see that somewhere in here. But
I think they got to use it somewhere because that was like one of the first shots of the trailer, it seems like. Or like one of the first major shots.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, sometimes like when they edit these trailers, like half the stuff's not done yet, and
True.
so they're just editing based off what they have. So, I mean,
Putting it out there to increase your anticipation.
yeah. Case in point, like Avengers Infinity War, that running towards the screenshot, that was in the movie.
That is very
Uh,
true.
Yeah, there's always trailers. Like I forgot I found some website that was like, this is a trailer. This never happened. This never happened. This never happened. Just kept pointing out everything.
The Rogue One trailer has all that stuff from like the original version of the ending of the movie, that like the like shot with Jin with the TIE fighter coming up right to her too. So there's I don't know. But
yeah, true.
it would kind of bum me out if that shot's not in the show, because that's a cool shot.
Right.
But I mean, I guess if anything, it's still in the trailer, so we still have it there. But
Could have just been made for the trailer. You never know.
Yeah. One of the things we noticed too is that like Cinta gets left behind after like as everybody else leaves, and they make a point of showing her still there on the planet. So like we're like remember that she's not dead; she's still there on that planet. She still has like her Imperial like uniform on to kind of blend in there. So I'm wondering if we'll come back to her at all at any point, and like what kind of situation she'll be in. Being left behind there.
Because they weren't supposed to leave the planet, I don't think. But they kind of did to go to that doctor.
Yeah. Well, I know that they were meant to go wherever Cassian was supposed to be flying that too. But now like when they get to this definitely can't be this dude's actual name, Dr. Quadpaw.
Mm-hmm. All I can think of was Goro from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, like what happens if you mix wow. I'm blanking on names tonight. Lupito Nyong'o.
Maz Kanata.
Yeah, what happens if you mix Goro with Maz Kanata?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you get right there.
Because Maz Kanata didn't have forearms, right?
No, she just had those giant.
Yeah, she just had the.
So that's why I thought it was supposed to be like the same like species of like alien, but I guess maybe it's not. Maybe it's just like an enhancement, kind of like we saw like in like the Book of Boba Fett with like the mechs on that show. They had like the different like ear or like eye enhancement stuff. So maybe that's because that dude's a doctor, like the same way that like when you go to the dentist, they have like the maybe that's what that's for with that dude. But I thought that was interesting, and I thought that was cool how they did that like puppeteering wise, which it seems like it's like if you ever watched Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah, they put the arms around him.
Yeah, someone was just behind him doing this, and then there was the other arms up here doing that. And that kind of went like against this like whole trope that you usually get like in TV2s. Like usually if you get to the point where you're bringing the character to get fixed up by the doctor, like okay, he's gonna be all right.
Exactly.
And exactly.
And that's what I was hoping. I was hoping in this case that trope would continue, but
yeah, and that maybe you would just be like paralyzed,
right,
from like the waist down, and then and then with this too, like they were like very insistent about giving Nemec's manifesto to Andor.
Yeah. So what's in it? Like he did mention how he wrote about Clem. He didn't really know his middle name in it, and then at the end he's like he wanted you to have it. So is it going to be revealed what was in it? Like curiosity.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that ends up kind of sort of being like in it. An unofficial kind of guide to like the Rebel Alliance, possibly, but because I feel like at least like what he's like talking about with Cassian earlier, like in the episode with like the whole thing about like the Empire doesn't play by the rules and whatnot, and Cassian's like they don't care about playing by the rules. They don't even acknowledge that you like exist. So I thought it would be cool to see more of like what was in that manifesto. Yeah, not usually a manifesto isn't.
It's usually a bad thing when it's mentioned.
Yeah, it's usually connected to like whoever
school
like
shooters,
writes a manifesto
bombers.
is usually
right.
Like usually
bad. Manifesto doesn't have the best connotation.
Yeah, I guess sometimes. Yeah, it's more like 10% of the time it's good, 90% of the time it's bad. So hopefully Nemec is like that, like the 10% rather than the 90%. You just like find out like how dark Nemec actually was. You're like, oh, I guess maybe it was good he got crushed by all those credits. Maybe it's good that like he's gone and he wasn't around to go around. He'd be worse than the Emperor.
Right, exactly. I do think that the manifesto, I mean, I'm guessing this is a prediction that maybe it'll come into play in terms of Andor's character growth. Because I mean, he's in a certain spot right now where he doesn't really care about much. It seems like, but Nemec as a one of the reasons why I love his character is just the way he philosophizes things and um, the way he could self-reflect and kind of give everyone, including the kind of awesome kind of uh, uh, as a audience, almost surrogate, almost a sense of perspective of what's going on. And again, the writing is so. I think the writing is really sharp on the show. I love one of my favorite lines is about a surprise from above is less than a shock from below, or something like that. That Nemec says in the previous episode. So I just really adore that character, and I think hopefully he'll be able to live on in a way via this manifesto.
Yeah, there's something coming from it because they wouldn't have made a point to show it.
Right.
One thing I just thought about going back to how they're going to get off the planet, my thought there was they can't use the nav system on the thing they flew, right? That's why they needed Nemec's manual thing.
Right.
Nobody knows how to use that.
You basically had like a space version of like a sextant. That's what it looked like. But yeah, because
nobody knows how to use that now. So how they that just adds to how are they going to get off this thing?
I don't know.
It's a good question.
I guess we'll find out in episode 7. But now, going off some of the lines that you said too, Mike, you had put a note in about a line that Skeen had said. Did you want to say it?
Oh, I know. We were born in a hole, and we'll climb over everyone else to get out. Trying to bond with Cassian to get him to steal the money. It's just that was a point of character growth for Cassian because he probably did live that life, and then when he you just went through this shit with all these people, you watched people die, and you're over here being like, let's just peace out.
And almost how calculated this entire thing was, that he didn't have a brother. He made up this super elaborate story about how his brother committed suicide by filling up his pants with rocks and walking into the water. I was think about how much he had to come up with that story to that, and then that almost shows a little bit more why he was so kind of suspicious of Cassian too, because he was saying with Cassian there, he's we were both born in a hole and whatnot, so he's the only other person that maybe could have found out what he was trying to do there. So I thought that was interesting. And then we've seen we already knew Cassian where he is 5 years later from now, at the beginning of Rogue One, he just shoots that dude that's on his team with him, but he's injured, so he's well,
bye.
So
bye. Yep.
It just shows kind of how desensitized already Cassian is to all this. He did that in the premiere. The first guy was an accident. Although he's got a freaking powerful headbutt still. If
I always laugh at that in movies.
Unless
you get people who get the crap kicked out of them and they just get up, and the one dude you flick in the head and he's dead.
You're oh, all right, well, oops. But yeah, because already he's gotten the pretty good body count in this. I don't know if you want to count the TIE fighters that got taken out going through the eye, just because he wasn't personally taking them out. But between the two dudes in the premiere, now Skeen, and then later on we know his other buddy, which I also predict is that next season of Andor, they're gonna make that character very important, and you're gonna make you really care about them through the 12 episodes of season 2 of Andor, and you're oh man, I really like this guy. Oh wait, I remember what happens at the beginning of Rogue One.
Right.
Although at the same end of there too, I think by the end of this series, that's going to make the end of Rogue One even more powerful with Cassian as well too, because you're going to remember all of this stuff that we've now gone through and experienced with him on the shows. So it'll make Rogue One even better than it already was at that point.
All these series have made everything better that they touch on.
Yeah.
Book of Boba Fett notwithstanding, that It was good, but it like didn't enhance anything. Kind of dehanced Boba Fett, but
Yeah, I like yeah, like you said, kind of like all of these shows have um they just add like another layer and uh give everything a little bit more substance, like from the animated series like Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Gives you more about like Anakin and Obi-Wan's like
Oh,
brotherhood and
definitely.
that, and then like even more with Ahsoka and Anakin in that too, gives you like another angle on Anakin's um, kind of attachment and shows more of like why he would fall to like to the dark side too. And then Rebels, that shows kind of what's going on in here in Andor too, but from like a slightly different angle.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if we'll get any kind of crossover in this show between Rebels and Andor. I know that's not kind of like what Tony Gilroy's all about, like with his stuff, but I feel like I know that we're getting Saw, but I
Right.
feel like if we get anybody, maybe we'll get like Hera Syndulla possibly. I feel like that could be like maybe like one of like the connections, or you'll just see like Chopper roll by in the background,
Mhm.
Sure.
like you did in Rogue One. Um, but with that too, we already kind of talked about it a little bit, but Mon Mothma being kind of like ignored and like no one even like paying attention to what she was saying in the Senate shows a little bit more like that, like what we hear in the beginning of episode 4, like where like the Senate has been finally like dissolved in that too,
Hmm.
Mhm.
that we're about 5 years away from that happening. So it can already see like how that's already starting to happen there anyways. Um, so
I mean, the Senate's
I,
pointless because we know we're like who's really in
yeah,
charge.
yeah, and you
But
can see that the pods actually have like the Imperial
mhm.
uh, logo on them
Logo.
now too. And they fixed it up real nice over those past
Mhm.
10 years or so since Revenge of the Sith with after Yoda and Sidious had that the whole fight in there.
Right.
But
They got money to spend.
yeah, not anymore. Well, they're at least 80 million short now.
That's one thing that's hammered home is that they don't care about money.
Yeah,
That just throw it around to make things look nice, and that's all. Appearance is more important than anything else.
yeah,
Right.
um,
Exactly. So, because in that scene you're talking about, Mark, with Mon Mothma, I really see that the Senate is more, I guess, more about. It's not actually a functioning government body at this point. They kind of handed all of the power over
yeah,
to Cydia. So it's been more for a show than actual like governance. Then, as you said at the beginning of episode 4, it's like the Senate is dissolved, whatever.
Mm.
yeah. Um, so
I
Sylvie agrees
mean,
with you.
if you think back to 2 episodes ago where Perrin's talking about that party he's throwing with other senators, it's more of like a club of
Right.
people who are like, we were voted in, or however they get to the Senate, and we don't
Hmm.
like. It's more about that than any legislation.
Yeah,
Right.
like more status than
Yeah.
um, actually doing anything. Again, kind of mirroring the real world. Uh, but with that, was there any kind of like closing statement you guys wanted to that you had about the episode and what you hope to see coming up? Collins and then Mike, and then I'll wrap it out.
Yeah, so I think from a, I guess from like a thematic standpoint, like I mentioned earlier, I would like to see how Cassian kind of grows, because I would like to see how he really kind of buys into the I guess the the rebellion, and how we, and I also it's going to take plays over a course of a couple of seasons, but how he gets into the character that we see. And I really think this manifesto, I think, will be that spark, so to speak, of that. And then I would like to see how he, Luthen, and Mon Mothma kind of intersect, how that, what that looks like. In addition to Michael was talking about, how they actually just get off the planet. So looking forward to all that.
Nice. Mike.
Yeah, definitely. This episode kind of hit home more. Not hit home. That's the wrong phrase. But the way they write characters who are about to die, and they just make you really want them to die.
Hmm.
So like the bad guys, like when they like that Tim guy, this Colonel dude, like they're just like they do such horrendous things. Like they say horrendous things, and you're just like, man, you just need to die, and then they do, and it's like fulfilling, and it's weird to feel that. But then they do other
Yeah,
throw like then like other characters you just kind of die and it's like thrown away, like Mark said. So it's like
yeah,
there's this weird balance in how people are shown dying in this. We're
yeah,
I super enjoy the realism that's getting like I still think the
Oh
fact
yeah.
that Cyril ate cereal is so great. Like, I don't even know why it's that great. It just when it happened, I was like, "This is awesome." And this
yeah. I
series
agree.
has been everything I've wanted like it to be. I didn't have any expectations. I can't claim like for Obi-Wan, I claim I'm Deborah Chow because it was like exactly as I wanted it to go. I won't
Sure.
do that with this one because it's meeting my need for it to be like Rogue One, but I didn't expect a heist at all.
Hmm.
But where I
Yeah.
want it to go, like I'm excited to see because I feel like the next episode's going to be they're back in Ferrix. Something's going on in Ferrix.
Yeah,
And then we'll see Mon Mothma and Luthen get together. He'll be ecstatic about something and she'll be distraught about it. And like that's the dynamic I think they have. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think they're going back to Ferrix. The Cyril's story is going to come back into picture, and we might get the conclusion of his obsession with Cassian in the next arc or the next 6 episodes. That's kind of
yeah,
what I'm thinking. Is Cassian's going to be trying to get back to get his people off Ferrix with his newfound wealth, and Cyril's going to be looking for him and like hunting him down some capacity, and it's going to come to a head in the end.
definitely. And
Yeah.
then like with that too, I still kind of hope that like my theory or like prediction with Cyril comes true because I would kind of like to see because I feel like it's almost predictable that he's going to become like an imperial or join like the empire since he was kind of already empire adjacent.
Hmm.
Um, but
I think he's
I think it would be interesting like if he ultimately ended up on like with the rebels and ultimately ended up like on the same side as Cassian and then but like doesn't realize it at
mhm,
first like that he's fighting on that same side and then like they both show up somewhere like I don't know like in the finale or something
right.
and then he like spots him and he's like oh you and then
Yeah,
season
I
one's
definitely think
done.
Cassian's going to end Cyril in some fashion.
Hmm.
Like whether it be he's trying to join his side unknowingly, or
Pour a bunch of milk on him,
eat his cereal.
make him
But
soggy.
I just see that could be like the finale is like their final get together in some fashion, whether it be a misunderstanding and Cassian just like blows him away, or
Yeah,
Cyril thinks he's got him and something happens and he gets sacrificed so Cassian can survive. But
yeah, I'd agree with that. But yeah, so that'll wrap us up for this episode of the Hold Maneuver. If you guys are watching us on YouTube, make sure you do all the things that people say on YouTube, like
Hmm.
mhm.
hit that like button,
Yep.
hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, so you know. Change the subscribe button from red to gray. Uh, Leave us a review on the podcast catcher of your choice.
Be like Kevin
Spotify.
Ham. Do it.
Yeah, you can leave it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, like Mr. Jedi Kevin, or was I think his like account name was like Master of Death Watch or something, which for someone that doesn't like Star Wars, he sure made a reference to Star Wars with that reference in his name there. And then you can find the show on social media through our link tree. It'll have all the pertinent information to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatnot. It'll also have uh, our own Instagram individually on there for myself and Mike. And then, Collins, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on like just the various social media, and then my username on all those is it's a little bit confusing because it's my last name, which is not a common last name, but it's CEZEANYIM. So I'm on Letterboxd, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff.
Nice. I'll link that in our show notes and on YouTube.
Thank
too,
you.
So we'll just click it and watch your movie reviews on,
Awesome.
or read your movie reviews on Letterboxd. And then our editor is Vactor. You can find him at Vactor in all the places. It's just his last name. It's very easy to find. And then you can email us at holdapod@gmail.com. And as always, we are grateful to George Lucas for creating the Star Wars universe.
Oh dear, thank the maker.